Hello friends, welcome again. In this session, we will talk about SQL constraints. So let's get started, and I already have few things because I do not want to type the insert statement, create statement. Rather, I want to keep some reference script. That's what I have. Now, the very first question you might ask, Sumit sir, you are saying we are learning SQL constraints. What is a SQL constraint and why do we require that? Let's say you have a employee table and you have a column called as age inside that. I mean, there would be many other columns. Now age, what you would define, probably you might define it as integer, right? But that integer can take even -5. Can -5 be the age of someone? No, it cannot be, right? That means uh, we can still enter data which might not make sense. So we can define some rules or constraints which will help us to have quality data, right? So when I say SQL constraints, what do I mean? I mean to say, uh, I want to specify the rules for data in a table, and I can define whatever rule I want, right? For example, age cannot be negative, and the joining date cannot be more than the current date. If let's say I'm saying someone is joining or someone has joined and I'm putting an entry, I cannot put a future date, right? These kind of things can be there, and many others, which you will understand shortly. So that means we will say that, okay, please make sure this rule is not violated, because otherwise we can enter anything, right, which might not make sense. Okay, so now we would specify the rules for data in a table. That's what a constraint means. And it also ensures, when we put constraints, right, it ensures the accuracy accuracy and reliability of data. If let's say we keep entering anything randomly, it might not make sense. Let's say if we say my order status can be either closed or complete or pending payment and all of that, and I would define it as a varchar. But if I define it as a varchar, then I can even enter my name, Sumit, as the order status. But will that make sense? No. That's where we can say, oh, if there is any other order status other than these seven, please throw an error. Do not accept, right? That is what the constraint we are putting, right? So I hope this would make sense. So as you know, we are covering a SQL Superstar program, a 50 days initiative that we have taken. Now, at this point, I'm sure you all would have subscribed to my channel, because that will be the motivating point for me. Because if I am teaching something and you guys like it, subscribe to my channel, click on the like button, mention in the comment about your learning experience, right? That's the motivation for a teacher, right? So make sure you do all of that. And from my side, I'll make sure to bring the top notch content. Now, as I said, SQL is the very first step which we will do in these 50 days. But after that, you should think of transitioning into data. SQL is one side which is important, but you have to take your career to the next level by learning more to this, right? It can be anything. And as you know, I have a data engineering program. I do not mean to say that you have to learn that from me, but I mean, you should definitely think that after SQL, what should be your next step? Data engineering is a very good career choice, and that's why I am covering things in a lot of detail, because SQL plays a very important role, and I am going that extra mile in order to cover things, just because I want you to be very good at SQL so that you can be good data engineers. And if you are hired as a data engineer, generally the salary ranges are between 3x to 6x of total years of experience. For example, a person with 5 years of experience might be earning a package between 15 lakh to 30 lakhs. A person with 10 years experience, total experience, I'm not talking about data engineering experience. A person with 10 years experience might be getting between 30 to 60 lakhs, and so on in India. And this is, I am just talking about service based company. When you talk about product based companies, the salary packages will be a lot different. I have seen some of my students with just 5 or 6 years of experience working in top product based company, earning more than a CR, of course, including stocks. So definitely you should think of a career transition if you are from any background, be it mainframe testing, support, data analyst, right, or ETL, anything. Data engineering is a very good career choice, and you can consider my ultimate data engineering program. For that I will mention the link for my website in comments, and I'm saying that you can learn that by yourself too. But again, if you need a structured way, you can consider going through any of the courses. The ultimate data engineering program that I offer is a very trusted program and has brought a lot of results. You can see the link to my website in the description, and you can know the details about the ultimate program. Now, you might ask Sumit sir, okay, I understood that there are constraints which we can place, but when do we put it? Is it while creating a table, right? Is it while creating a table, or when exactly? So, when to specify these constraints, right? When to specify these constraints? There are two ways. Either you can define these constraints when you are creating a table creation time. That means whenever you are creating a new table, you can define these constraints, create table, right? Let's say you are saying I'm creating a employee table, and that time I will put a constraint saying age cannot be negative, right? Or let's say you have already created a table, now you later want to add a constraint to that, right? So you can later update or alter the table definition and add a constraint. That means already table was there and later you are adding a constraint to that. That can be done using the alter command. So whatever way you want, you can do that, right? So anyways, we will see all of this practically. Now I am using MacBook, so inside view I have this, right, syntax. And if I say plain text, it comes all in black, but if I say SQL, then it would show the keywords and all properly, right? So we can do that, right? This might look more neat, I believe, but that's fine. Fine. So you understood what is a constraint, what is the advantage of it, and when we can add those, right? So we will see all of this practically. So do not worry. To start with, I will go to my SQL workbench, and I will drop my retail DB, drop database name, right? Because I want to start fresh. I dropped it. Now I will create database retail underscore DB. I am creating newly so that we are starting from a clean slate, right? Now I will connect to this, use retail underscore DB, right? Okay. So right now I'm connected to this, and if I say show tables, I should not see anything because we just now created it. This is empty. I hope this is clear. Okay. Now, what I will do is the very first constraint that I want to talk about is a check constraint. Is a check constraint that I want to talk about. Now, let me give you this example, and instead of talking theoretically, let me show or tell practically what is a check constraint. Let's say we have this orders table where we have order ID, order item ID, date, customer ID, order status, product ID, quantity, product price, and total price, right? So basically, each order item might have multiple order items because in a single order, you might place multiple items inside that, right? All of this is fine. Now, let's say inside this, you have a field called as order status, right? Which is defined as varchar 20. That means you can provide a string value up to 20 characters. Now, actually, if you ask me, the order status is, or the valid order statuses are these ones. If you see closed, pending payment, complete, processing, on hold, suspected fraud, and pending. These are the valid order status, and Varcat 20 can store it. But Varcat 20 can store a lot other things, right? And even if I put my name Sumit, it will accept right now. So if I go with this table definition of orders, I'll just uh, do that. Create table orders, right? Let me run this. I created this table. Now inside this, I will be able to enter any kind of value for order status beyond these seven, isn't it? So let me just take one insert statement and see what it is. Just give me a moment. I want to put it so that you can see it properly. Insert into orders values. I am giving order ID, order item ID, order date, customer ID, order status, right? So if I give, I mean, close here, will it take or not? Will this work or not? And let me tell you, this is invalid because this is not among these seven. But if I run this right now, will this work or not? Let me see. And you can see this has worked. Insert into this worked. And I mean, why would it not work? Because close is satisfying this varchar 20, right? That's fine. Let me say select star from orders. Let me say select star from orders, and I will be able to see this record without any issues. This shows that, I mean, this is a problem. That means this is an invalid order status, isn't it? This is wrong. Is there a way that we do not allow any invalid order status? This is where we can have a check constraint. That means please check if the value lies within a certain range, right? So that's what it says. So what I will do is I'll come here, I'll come here, okay, and I will slightly modify this. So what I will do right now, my table is already created, that's fine. What I will try to do is I will try to alter because table is created. I do not want to drop the table, let's say. So what I can do is I can say, let's say alter table, alter table. What is the table name? Orders, right? And alter table orders. And what I want to add to this, I want to add, I want to add what? A check constraint. Add check, right? And here, what check condition I want to put? The check condition that I want to put here is my order status should be in, should be in a few values. What are those? I'll put it. So it should be in these values. I'll just put it properly. Uh, so since these are all strings, right? I have to put it this way. Pending payment. So I'm saying should be one among these. I will talk more about the in statement here later, but I hope you are getting a feel that what I am trying to do. I mean, if it would have been just one value, then I would have said order status equal to close. But now it's multiple values, right? So I have to give in, right? That means if it is among any of these, this is fine. So I am doing this. Okay. So alter table orders, add check, order status in this. And I will try to run this. Now, do you think this will work? But think logically, it's not all about syntax, right? It's not all about syntax. Think, will this table definition change now? You might say, since we are running, it should change. But don't you feel there is something called as close here? And if I put this definition, I mean, the table has data which is not validating with this. That means the table, whatever conditions we are putting, is not matching with the already existing data. So there is a mismatch. So this should fail. Let me just run this. Let me run this, right? And you can see it has failed. It says check constraint is violated. Check constraint is violated. And by the way, as of now, you see that when we added this check condition, we have not given it any name. So it took some system defined name like orders underscore check underscore one, right? Orders check one. We could have given a name also. I will show that to you also. But main thing that I'm saying this failed. Why? Because the table has some data which is not acceptable to this condition, right? So one way is we can delete this record which is there, and then this will work. Let me do that. So what I will say is delete, or better to give in uppercase, delete uh, from orders. If I do this, it will remove all the records which are there, right? I have deleted. Now if I change the definition now, will this work or not? It should. This should work, right? So let me quickly run this, and you can see this has worked fine. This has worked fine. And now, since my table has this check constraint that it will check whether I am putting a value inside this or not, or it will accept only these values. If I try to run this, this will show an error. You can see this. Check constraint is violated. And that's how you are trying to make sure only quality content comes in this particular column. It's not that some random value comes, right? So it will be any of those seven values which are there in check constraint. And this is how it maintains the integrity of this data, right? So data will be reliable now. I hope this is clear. If I say closed, then of course it will take that, because this is falling under this list, right? I hope this makes sense. Okay. And by the way, if you have to see what is the name of this constraint, right? Right now, I have not given any name to this, right? There would be some default name, and you can check that out. How to check? I'll just put it here. So there are two ways to check. There can be more ways also. Two ways I will tell you. One is you can say show create table orders, right? Think it this way, that create table orders, right? You want to see this. You are saying show me how this table orders was created, right? Show me the DDL statement to create this orders table. Now you created a table and then you altered it, so it will mix or combine both of this and show you together. So let me show you that. Okay. And if I just run this, if I run this, you can see this, and you can right click, copy field, copy field, and it gives me all of this. Backticks is fine, but you see create table orders, all of this, constraint name check, right? So orders underscore check constraint underscore one, right? This is what is the name it gave by default. I hope this is clear. Now, if I have to, let's say, uh, I can even drop this constraint if I want and create it in a different manner. I'll just show you what I am trying to say. So, if I have to drop the constraint, how will I drop this? I will say alter, alter table, alter table. What table it is? Orders. Drop. Which constraint you want to drop? Check constraint, right? And what is the name of this? What is the name? Orders check 1. Drop check this. Right? That means you are saying alter table name because you are making a change in structure of this table, and you are saying please drop this constraint. I do not need it. Any values are accepted. So let me just do that. Let's see what happens. Now it says retail db dot order status. Sorry, instead of orders, right? Somehow it automatically changed, right? So now you can see this is done. And now, if you check, there won't be any constraint here. Another way to create the constraint would have been, I'll just show that to you. Do have this command here? Okay. So alter table name, add check. So right now I have removed the constraint. Let me try adding it again. Alter table name, add check, and now I can give the name of this constraint what I want. How to give that name? I can say add constraint, right? Add constraint, and I can give any name. Let's say I'm saying chk. That means so that I can recall it that it is check order status. I can give any name. Alter table name, add constraint name, check. So let me try running this, and you can see this has worked. You can see this has worked. And now if I say show create table orders, it should tell me that this is the name. Right click, copy field, right? And by the way, I'll just copy this also, right? So that we know that how do we get this. So you can see this is the name. There is one more way to see the that okay which table which column has constraint and all, right? There is another way also to check, and you remember we have something called as information schema, right? We have something called as information schema. So let me just show you. So I will say use information schema, which acts like a catalog, right? You remember it acts like a catalog. So I am connected to this, and inside this, we have a table called as check constraints. So I will say show tables. You can see yourself that there is a table called as check constraints. This one. So I can say select star from check constraints. Right? Let's see what is there. So these are the check constraints available, and you can see check underscore order status is the name, and the condition is this: order status is in closed. And do not worry about this encoding, it's internal, right? Order status in closed. That's what is the thing. So it will only take order status if it is closed, uh, or whatever is the list, right? Pending payment, everything would be here. If I copy field, you can see this. You can see this. Order status in closed, pending payment, complete, processing, on hold, suspected fraud, and pending. So this is how it holds it. And then whenever we enter the value, it checks based on this. I hope this would make sense. Just have a look at it. Should be pretty much clear to you, right? Okay. Now what we will do is what we will do. Uh, we will we will now let's say drop this table. Drop table. Uh, drop table orders. Drop table orders. Sorry, we are now connected to information schema, right? So I will say use retail underscore db, right? Use retail db and drop table orders. Now table is dropped. Why dropped it? Because right now I showed you that first you created a table without constraints and then you added it using alter. But what if while creating the table itself, you have to add the constraint. Then how to do that, right? So let me just show you that. I'll just copy this definition. I'll just copy this definition and I will come here. That's where we were, right? And inside this, I have to add this. So what I will do, order status varchar 20. Here I can say check, check, and I can take it from there. I can take it from there. This is the condition. So I will just put it in the same line so that it looks fine. So you can see this is how this can work, right? Now if I take this and run, let's see what happens. And this worked. So that means while creating the table itself, we are able to put this check constraint, right? Earlier, what we did, we first created a normal table without constraint and then we added it later, altered the table definition. But now, while creating itself, we are giving, right? So I hope this should be fine. And now it will work the same way. It will work the same way. There is no difference as such. And if you want, right now it would have taken its some default name. But if you want, you could have given a name here. How? How you could have given a name? You could have said constraint, just like same way. Constraint, and you could have given check underscore, let's say order status. Any name you could have given and this would have worked. But since my table is already created, if I run it, it will say table already exists. You can see this orders table already exists, so I can drop the table and recreate it. Drop table orders, right? So if I select both of these and run this, it should run one by one. So first it dropped and it recreated. I hope this makes sense. And if you have to drop the constraint, you know that you can give this name and drop it. You know that you can give this name and drop the constraint. This is the syntax. Alter table, table name, drop, check constraint and the constraint name. So I hope this should be pretty much clear to you that what is a check constraint and what's the use of it. But only thing that you have to remember, if you have already created a table without a constraint and when it has some data, and then you are altering the table to put a constraint and data is not satisfying those conditions, then your alter statement will fail. And that's very logical, right? That should be very logical. Okay. Now, let's say uh, inside this orders table itself, you know that you will never sell more than 50 quantities of any product in one order, right? That means quantity can never be more than 50 in a single order. So you want to place that constraint. So what I can do, I will say drop table orders and I will recreate it with both the constraints, let's say. I could have done alter also. So drop table orders. Already this check constraint is there. I want to put another check constraint on this quantity, and I can say check uh, quantity quantity less than or equal to 50. That means quantity should not be greater than 50 because I know I won't be selling more than that. That's the rule of a company, let's say. So let me just run this before this drop statement also. Okay, I'll select both of these and run. So it worked. Now we have two constraints actually. If you see that information schema and then check constraints table, you will see there are two constraints there. Anyways, I will now try to insert some values. Now try to insert some values. So insert into orders values, and all of this I can give. And here the quantity, let me mention as 52, and the quantity is 52, item price is this, then this 299.98 might not make sense. So I'll say null, right? Instead of passing a value for total price, I'm saying null because purchasing 52 items and each item is of this price. So this should be 52 into this actually. I do not want to calculate. Let me pass as null because I'm not showcasing that. And now what do you expect will happen? It will fail. It will fail. It says check constraint violated. It says check constraint violated. So it's a violation of a constraint. Okay, anyways, it violated this only. Close. Let me just put, because it says check one violated. Let me put this correct. And if I run this now it says orders check two violated, right? So now it is because this item is more than 52. If it is, let's say, 49, this should work. I expect this to work. And you can see this has worked now. And I can say select star from orders. Select star from orders. And you can see this particular record. Total price I gave as null, so it's coming like that. That's fine. I hope you kind of got what I am trying to convey here. Right? Okay. So now uh, let's see one more example. Let's see one more example. Now let's say uh, I want to create a person's table. I want to create a person's table where I have person ID, first name, last name, and age. But I mean, if I give this, then it can even take -5 as the age, isn't it? Anything it can take. It can take 500 also as the age, right? So I want to say that age should not be negative, let's say, right? So what to do, right? If I do this and I say -5 here, will this work or not? This will work, but this is not correct data. You know that. So how do I put a constraint here? I can say age check, right? And I will say age greater than 0. That's what I would want to say, right? Age int check constraint age greater than 0. Okay, let me just try running this, and this has worked. This has worked. Now if I try putting this as the value -5, this will show errors. It says check constraint persons check 1 violated. Persons check 1 violated. Let me quickly drop this table. Drop table persons, right? I'm dropping this particular table. Now there is even this way that I can say age int comma, and next line I can give this check constraint, right? That means I'm not just giving along with the column, rather I'm writing at the end. At the end I'm writing. Then this is also something that will work. I'll show that. You can see this has worked, and if I run this insert, this has failed. So this again is like the same result. I hope this makes sense. Okay. Next example. Now this is interesting. Let's say we have a users table where we have user ID, username, email, right? That's fine, right? User ID, username, and email. Now, what I basically want is that I want to do some pattern matching, little bit of pattern matching for email. That means I want that in my email I should have, uh, let's say my email ID. If I write Sumit at the rate trendytech.in, that's the email ID, right? Isn't it? So what happens here, that at the rate symbol is there, and after that somewhere dot is there. So these two are there, but in this sequence. So before this there is something, before this there is something, after this there is something, and then we have a dot, and then there is something. I'm not teaching you this pattern matching as of now, right? But when we'll learn in more detail later, but somewhat you can understand that this is something that should match. That means one or more characters, I mean any number of characters here, any number of characters here, any number of characters here, in this order, right? So we will try for this. So right now, if I give this, if I give this, then in email you can even write Sumit this, right? This will also work. But is this a valid email? No, this is not, right? Now, is this a valid email? No, this is not. But if I give this table definition, it will accommodate this, right? Which is wrong. So I want to put a check constraint on email. I want to put a check constraint on email. So let me give a comma and put it at the end. That's fine. Check, right? What check I want to do on email, I want to do, and email should be like, email should be like, uh, here I have put, right, email should be like this. And do not worry if you do not understand, because this is something which I will teach you later, right? We'll learn it in upcoming sessions. So let me create this particular, and okay, do not worry about this primary key. I have not taught you till now. This is another constraint, but I do not intend to show you right now. So let me go here and put this, run this. This worked. And now, if I try to add Sumit at trendytech.in, this should work. This should work. This looks to be fine, I believe. And now if I change it, let's say I will say to, uh, and Kapil M, let's say, and I say Kapil at trendy tech, and I will say in, like this. So the format is messed up. Will it take this? No. It says check constraint is violated. Check constraint is violated. Let's say if I say couple.trendytag in or couple.trendytag.in, will this take? No. This will not take this. It is violating because it's not matching this pattern. So you understand that how exactly a check constraint is helping you out, right? It helps you that the system do not take garbage, or system do not consume garbage data. It takes only valid data so that your database remains meaningful. I hope this would make sense. One more example, last example for the check constraint I want to showcase. Let's say you have a projects table, right? By the way, I am sure you would be enjoying these examples. I have taken all these examples with a purpose, that you understand the scenarios when to apply. It's not that I just teach you the technology saying you apply this way and it will work. No, that everyone can do, but for which columns it might be required, what are the scenarios that I am trying to explain, the real time scenarios. So let's say you have a projects table and you have project ID, project name, and project start date and end date. Now you want to make sure that your start date should be before end date, right? Of course. If it happens that end date is first and start date is later, there is a issue. So we want to put a constraint saying start date should be less than end date, right? So, by the way, if we just do this without constraint, it can consume anything which we do not want. So, we would wish to put a constraint here. How do we put a check constraint? I can say comma, check, check. What check we want to put? And date should be greater than start date. Start date. Very simple thing. And let me create this particular table. Okay, table is created. Now this particular record insert into projects, one project alpha, and this is the start date, this is the end date. So end date is coming after the start date. This should work fine. This should work perfectly fine. Let's see. This should work fine, and this worked. Now let me put another project into it. Let me put another project. I'll say project beta. I'm just putting some random name. And this is 2023. Let me make it 2022. Will this work? Is it going to work? This should fail because it is violating the check constraint. And you can see the check constraint is violated. So, with this, you understood about check constraint. I have talked or taken various examples, and I feel in your life you should never forget about this check constraint, and you should also know when to use it. It's not just you know what is a check constraint, but you know the actual implementation or the use cases when you should be using that. So with this, I think we have covered quite a lot regarding this check constraint here. In my next session, I will talk about the other constraints like the not null constraint and the primary key constraint. So we'll talk about other constraints in the next session. So with this, let me end the session. I hope you liked it. Thanks a lot.